Well, Governor Bill Lee gave his State of the State address in Knoxville tonight. Lee first delivered that address in Nashville last night, gave the same speech, this time at the Clarence Brown Theater on the UT campus. After the address, Governor Lee spoke about his initiatives, including taking steps to stop opioid abuse through mental health services.
We are investing in our behavioral health and mental health safety nets, in particular $11 million to our behavioral health safety net, which will provide services particularly for those who are underinsured or those who have no insurance at all.
Governor Lee will travel to West Tennessee on Thursday to give the speech at the University of Memphis.